Hello and welcome to UZREPORT.NEWS. I'm Barnona Zarzoda. The third flight from Beijing has arrived to Tashkent at 4:40 a.m. on February 6. President Shavkat Mirziyoyev held a meeting on priority tasks for reforming the system of foreign economic activity. Virus specialists jointly with the Health Department of the Republic of Uzbekistan have taken control over the health of each passenger. The third flight from Beijing has arrived to Tashkent at 4:40 a.m. on February 6. There were 251 people on board, including crew members and medical representatives with modern protective equipment. All passengers have been quarantined.
UZREPORT TV continues the coverage of the arrival of our citizens evacuated from China. In early morning of February 6th, the third charter flight with 260 people on board arrived at the capital's airport. The first flight from Beijing arrived home on February 4th, and the second one from Wuhan carrying 84 people landed in Tashkent on February 5th. According to preliminary information, none of the passengers appear to be showing the signs of illness. However, all of them will be quarantined for 14 days in special medical facilities located in Tashkent and Tashkent region. Only medical staff will be allowed to contact them during the quarantine. The new coronavirus is typically spread via airborne droplets produced by infected individuals, so conventional sanitary masks cannot protect against penetration of the virus into the body if the eyes remain open. In the first place, this applies to doctors who get into direct contact with patients.
President Shavkat Mirziyoyev held a meeting on priority tasks for reforming the system of foreign economic activity. The unsystematic nature of the organization of work of this area, which has persisted for many years, leads to certain difficulties in the implementation of foreign trade. This is evidenced by Uzbekistan's position in the World Bank's Doing Business rating in the direction of the cross-border trade. Uzbekistan is placed 152nd among 190 countries. The meeting focused on what should be done to improve Uzbekistan's position in Doing Business rating. In many countries, customs authorities receive information about the cargo before it arrives at the border, which speeds up the passage through the control. In the case of Uzbekistan, only 344 out of 416,000 declarations were drawn up before the cargo arrived at the border. Pre-notification of cargo was carried out in 98% of road transport cases, but the situation in the rail transport is different. Mirziyoyev instructed to establish a system in which control is carried out not at the border, but before the cargo arrives at the border or after the product is released into free circulation within the country. The system of administration was harshly criticized. Currently, control of the import and export of little less 2,000 types of goods is carried out by 3 departments, as a result of which the registration processes take several weeks. The Ministry of Finance and the State Customs Committee have been tasked to develop a new customs code and improve the structure and administration of customs authorities with the involvement of international experts. The president also pointed out the need to eliminate corruption and illegal turnover of goods by minimizing the human factor through the introduction of digital technologies. Another problem is time of passage of goods through border. The analysis shows that over the past 3 years, the number of people crossing the border with the neighboring countries has increased by twice, while the number of vehicles has increased almost threefold. However, the existing infrastructure fails to support this flow. The distribution of cargo traffic is not organized properly. Responsible persons were instructed to equip the border posts with modern technologies. Mirziyoyev noted that the foreign trade control agencies need to closely interact and exchange experience with foreign colleagues, organize testing labs, and arrange the shipment of goods together with permits that meet foreign requirements. A number of bills were on agenda at plenary session of Oli Majlis. According to one of them, the volume of microfinance services set to increase. In addition, an automated system will now distribute cases to judges.
The discussion around the bill on amendments and additions to certain legislative acts of Uzbekistan led to its approval. The document concerns reforms in the judicial system. Amendments are being made to exclude from the powers of the president of the court the rules related to the distribution of cases by him, with the introduction of an exclusively automated system for the distribution of cases between judges. This will serve to further develop the judicial and legal system and simplify the implementation of business activities. Another bill under scrutiny was on amendments to the law of Uzbekistan on microfinance. According to deputies, it is necessary to introduce remote services, expand the range of services provided, and prevent the formation of excessive debt burden of the population. According to Article 14 of the law on guarantees for the activities of non-governmental non-profit organizations and Article 21 of the law on social partnership, the procedure for providing a state social order for the implementation of socially significant projects is provided. However, after the adoption of these laws, the practice of allocating a social order by public authorities is not observed at all. The deputies propose to simplify the procedure for providing a social order. In addition, they believe that the adoption of this bill will lead to the abolition of rules that provide for the creation of public councils under public administrations that have similar functions and tasks. In particular, the deputies at the meeting focused on protecting the interests and rights of children.
Учитывать их мнение во время суда.
It is necessary to take into account their opinion during the trial, with whom the child wants to stay as a result of the divorce. I would like to cite statistics. Every year, some 30,000 families divorce in Uzbekistan. As a result of this, many children are left without care. We suggest that before the trial and during the trial, take into account the opinion of the child. According to the bill, a child can use the right to be a plaintiff in court from the age of 14.
Uzbekistan is doing its best to eradicate the forced labor. New legal jobs are being created and practice to involve medical and school staff to cotton harvest is being eliminated. But that's not enough. Labor market mechanisms still need to be evaluated and strengthened. These and other issues were on the agenda of a roundtable held in Tashkent.
Uzbekistan has been cooperating with the International Labour Organization since 1992, but active work began only in 2016. To date, our country has ratified 17 ILO conventions and one protocol of the convention. A striking example of work on the elimination of forced labor is the cotton harvest, but it is not enough to influence only a single sector. It is necessary to take into account the entire agricultural sphere. This is also mentioned in the Strategy on Agricultural Development for 2020-2030.
Probably you have all read this document. It aims at solving such issues as ensuring food security of our population. The second is the reduction of rule of the state in the management of the sphere. The third is development of modern public administration systems in this direction, and a gradual diversification of public spending to support the agriculture sector. The strategy provides for a complete transition to market mechanism in the agriculture system by 2030.
The State Labor Inspectorate also presented a report for 2019. Over the past period, the institution has received 1,282 reports of forced labor. 118 cases refer to the cotton harvest season. The guilty persons were fined some $80,000. During the last cotton harvest season, the inspection conducted monitoring a little less than 3,000 times. The results revealed that more than 3,000 citizens were involved in forced labor.
In his address, President Shavkat Mirziyoyev specifically drew attention to the state of the judicial and legal systems. Over the past 3 years, about 2,000 people have secured their acquittal, of which more than 800 people were acquitted in 2019 alone. Besides, last year about 4,000 people were released immediately, and the charges filed unreasonably against 2,623 people were reclassified and decriminalized. The UZREPORT TV team spoke to some of the former convicts to see how their lives have changed.
Reforms in the judicial and legal sphere have been carried out step by step, from the abolition of the death penalty to the eradication of corruption, resulting in just sentences. On top of this, in 2019, crime rates fell by 29.6% compared to 2018. Of the cases investigated over the past year, 2,092 didn't constitute a public danger, 1,671 were low-level offenses, 1,890 were serious crimes, and 436 were especially grave crimes. The first victim we have managed to talk was Mahkam Vahidov. Prior to imprisonment, he worked in the capacity of a senior prosecutor at the Office of the General Prosecutor of Uzbekistan. It is easy to guess that he was charged with bribery. On August 14, 2012, Mahkam Vahidov was convicted by the Yunusobod court. He was sentenced to 7 years, but after serving only 2 years, he was acquitted and released on March 29, 2014. I was convicted for my alleged intention to receive a bribe. According to them, I had intention to take it. In addition, there were gross violations during the trial. The main proof was a recording, which according to them was somehow destroyed. The verdict was based on a non-existent audio recording. But Mahkam Vahidov's ordeal didn't end there. It has been several years now since his acquittal, but he has neither been able to return to his previous work, nor to find any new job. Still, the rehabilitation process didn't reach the logical end. In particular, I have not been reinstated, which is stipulated by our legislation, and I have been trying this for 2 years, but to no avail. This is not only my problem, it is a mass problem. The second victim is Suhrab Boisov, born in 1988. On October 10, 2018, he got into a car accident. Suhrab Boisov showed us footage from cams installed at the intersection and spoke about the accident and the cause decision. I was driving a Tico and was about to turn left from the intersection. A yellow traffic light was on when suddenly a cobalt hit me at a high speed. I don't remember what happened next as I passed out. After the investigation, the Mirziyoyev court convicted me. Under Part 1 of Article 266, I was imposed with a penalty fine in the amount of 10 minimum wage, 18 million soms to compensate the damage to the driver and deprivation of a driver's license for 1 year. I believe the verdict was unfair, so I appealed to the municipal court. The judge reviewed my case, watched the footage and found me not guilty. However, prosecutors filed a protest with the Supreme Court. They called me already 4 times. Despite the fact that Suhrab Vahidov was acquitted by the municipal court, his case has not yet drawn to an end.
What are the recent political developments in the cotton sector? How has the country's new policy impacted labor practices during the cotton picking season? A follow-up meeting of the officials of the Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations of Uzbekistan and representatives of the foreign organizations discussed problems of agricultural development in Uzbekistan.
As noted at the meeting, the effective development of agriculture can be made possible only if it functions on market principles, so drastic changes are expected under implementation of the agricultural development strategy. In addition, starting on April 1st, as a pilot experiment, farmers in 3 provincial districts will be allocated agricultural land on the basis of competitive bidding procedure. Following the review of outcomes, such practice will be introduced throughout the country. At the same time, it is planned to create consulting services centers in the regions on the one-stop-shop principle basis to enable farmers to adapt to new agribusiness environment. And the key point here is the shift of the state's role from control and direct management to the provision of services aimed at promoting efficiency in farms and Dehqan farms.
The Uzbek delegation headed by Employment Minister Nozim Husanov visited Washington and attended public hearings on Uzbekistan's compliance with the requirements of the General System of Preferences. The hearing was chaired by Deputy Assistant Trade Representative Laura Bufo. The GSP subcommittee included representatives from the State Department, the Departments of Commerce, Finance, and Labor, as well as U.S. Homeland Security.
U.S. agencies were informed in detail about the institutional and legal reforms underway in Uzbekistan aimed at the complete elimination of forced labor. GSP subcommittee was particularly interested in the implementation of the roadmaps regarding the abolition of the system of state orders for cotton, the specifics of clusters being created, further plans of the state to subsidize the activities of farms. U.S. Deputy Trade Representative Christopher Wilson praised the ongoing reforms in Uzbekistan aimed at ensuring international standards and protecting labor rights. The participation of Uzbek delegation at the hearing headed by Minister Nozim Husanov once again testifies to the firm political will and commitment of the Uzbek leadership to eliminate the factors of forced and child labor. We support your country's efforts, he said, stating that the United States is ready to support Uzbekistan's aspirations to join the WTO. Christopher Wilson noted that the reform processes associated with joining this organization also contribute to the long-term, sustainable development of the labor market of the Republic. During the working visit to Washington, the delegation of Uzbekistan also held a series of meetings and negotiations at the State Department, the Office of the Trade Representative, the Department of Labor and the ILO. A meeting was held with First Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for South and Central Asian Affairs, Alice Wells. First Deputy Assistant positively assessed cooperation with the International Coalition Cotton Campaign and active interaction with civil society institutions. At a meeting with U.S. Deputy Labor Minister, the U.S. side welcomed plans to abolish the practice of setting mandatory cotton plants and the expansion of cluster production in the sector. The American side expressed its readiness to provide technical and consulting assistance in implementing international labor standards, as well as improving the skills of labor inspectors. At a meeting with Kevin Cassidy, director of the Washington Bureau of the International Labor Organization, the Uzbek delegates discussed interaction within the framework of the Decent Work Program, as well as the launch of a joint pilot project of the ILO and the IMF in the field of improving social protection of the population.
Javlon Vahobov, head of the Uzbek diplomatic mission to the United States, visited the Innovation Center of the world's largest construction company, Bechtel, in Virginia, and met with its president for regional cooperation, Stuart Jones. Jones expressed interest in implementing investment projects in Uzbekistan, including the construction of the toll roads Tashkent-Samarkand and Tashkent-Andijan, as well as complex development of mineral deposits. According to the diplomatic mission of Uzbekistan, Bechtel is the world's leader in innovative solutions in the construction sector. It has its own innovation center, which constantly develops and tests new technologies and methods aimed at ensuring the safety of facilities, builders, and environment. Representatives of Bechtel noted that more than 25,000 projects have been implemented using innovative developments in 116 countries, including the construction of the world's largest photovoltaic power plant in California, the first commercial nuclear power plant in Tennessee, and longest high-speed railway in the UK, international airports in the cities of Hong Kong, Sydney, Doha, and Dubai. When implementing projects abroad, they focus on the local staff and improving their capacity through training, Stuart Jones said. Following the meeting, an agreement was reached to organize a visit of Bechtel delegation to Uzbekistan in March this year to hold talks with the involved ministries and departments on joint implementation of the above-mentioned projects. The central bank has updated its statistics of Uzbekistan's gold and foreign exchange reserves. Official reserves as of January 1, 2020 amounted to $29.1 billion US, international reserves $28.6 billion US. The banking regulator began disclosing this kind of information in 2017, and the current figure has for the first time exceeded $29 billion US. And this was our last report. Thank you for your attention and goodbye.